Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is April 9th, and today's episode is going to be talking about politics quite a lot in the beginning. There's a whole lot to talk about there. Then we're going to talk about progress on the bridge stuff that we've been talking about for the last week and a half, and a whole lot more. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6.
Right, so we're going to start here with a screenshots from Donald Trump's Truth Social page where he seemed like he was panicking. So he started talking about how this is a great time to move your country into the US, your company into the US, wants to make America great again. This was like, Spitfire sending out messages on Truth Social. He says Republicans is now more important than ever that we pass the big, the beautiful bill the USA will soar like never before. That's him talking about his tax cut bill. And he says imperative that the Republicans in the House pass the tax cut bill now, our country will boom. He says fixing trade and tariffs is a good thing, that quoting Jamie Dimon, but like totally keeping him taking him out of context. Then he says, be cool, everything is going to work out well. The USA will be bigger and better than ever before. And then he said, this is a great time to buy Donald J. Trump. So this came on the back of the bonds overnight going like really high. They went over 5% for the 30-year, like just spiking like really, really high. And this meant that that you have to make them more attractive to get buyers because people weren't buying them. So it's really bad. The bond market was looking really, really bad. Anyway, after Donald J. Trump tells you to buy, the next step is that he revoked tariffs. So he he put out Truth Social saying Truth Social post saying that there's a trade war with China. Basically, China reciprocated with increasing tariffs. So the US is now going to increase tariffs by to 125%. So it's going up by another 21% or something like that. 125% tariffs effective immediately to goods from China. And then, however, he said that other countries, more than 75 countries, have called representatives of the United States, including departments of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution. So he says because of that, what he's going to do is pause all tariffs for 90 days. And subsequently, he says, I've authorized a 90-day pause and a subsequently substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10% also effectively immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So like always with Trump, like people are not quite sure exactly what the full details of this are. However, like we found out on Monday, when the fake story came out of Trump pausing the tariffs, markets pumped like instantly. Well, we basically saw that that's exactly what was happening here as well. So if you have a look at RPL, obviously that's where we're going to start with because this is a Rocket Pool show. You can see that the prices were kind of low and flat, and then they boomed. So RPL is up about 10% in the last 24 hours. ETH has actually bounced more strongly. It was as low as around 1,480 with overnight lows of 1,385, I think, somewhere around those kind of numbers. Some really low prices, and then it boomed, and currently it went all the way up to 1,673, but it's currently at 1,640 or around there somewhere, and that's like an 11.5% increase. BTC is up. Other crypto assets are up as well. And what's really interesting is it's not just crypto assets that are up, but the stock market had a big boom. Here, the Nasdaq at this point was up 10% on the day, which is a huge gain. In trad stocks, like a 10% day is pretty much unheard of. So that was a really, really big deal. Now, you might be thinking and here there's more information of the stock market. So here Watcher Guru says over $3.5 trillion added to the US stock market following the 90-day tariff pause. So this was literally just within a matter of minutes that all that money was injected into basically every market that you can think of. yeah, just an astronomically large amount of money flew into the markets. Now, what does this mean, right? Like, the people who are starting to say that this isn't. Yeah, I'll let Charles speak here. He says, Scoop, many top money managers say it was Japan, not China, selling their bonds last night that upended the market and forced Trump's hand into a pause. And yes, Trump took the win as so many countries wanted to do deals. Never one thing that causes anything, story developing. So, what Charles here is saying is that basically Trump blinked. The bond market was showing really like strong signs of weakness. That is not what the Trump admin wanted. They wanted to lower those bond rates so the Fed would cut interest rates. However, with all this uncertainty in the markets, it didn't look like the Fed was going to be cutting interest rates. With all these inflationary pressures that were on the edges. So it looked like the Trump admin balked basically and took a step back. Now, they of course are not presenting it as this. They're saying that the countries want to do deals. The whole world is looking to do deals with America, and that's why we're pausing this to get those deals done. But the reality is that the markets were absolutely spooked, and there you go. Even on Fox News here, there was a contributor who's saying that, I want to tell you that Trump outsmarted the world. And he says, I support the president, but that is not what happened here. What happened here is the bond market, basically was showing big signs of weakness, too much weakness. And he says, from what I understand, that is what forced the 90-day reprieve. So it's really funny to see like some of the comments about this coming from Trump supporters and non-Trump supporters. Yeah, there's definitely a lot here, and I think it's going to take a few hours to unpack everything and get the full amount of information. Now, I don't normally talk about market prices and stuff, but one of the things that I'm thinking here is that this weakness, this strength in the market that we're seeing, I think is actually built on a foundation of sand. I think there's deep weakness in the market, even with these tariffs on China, 125%. There's going to be so many American businesses, small businesses, that are going to go out of business because of this. Like, they just won't be able to pay for their goods. They won't be able to, they won't be able to meet their orders. They won't be able to pay for their goods. The price rise will be so much that they won't be able to put out their products at a price that people want to buy at. And those businesses are going to fold. These are the ones that import things like plastics or raw materials from China or other countries, or even the goods themselves. If they have them produced in Chinese factories and getting them brought to the US before selling them to their customers. I don't think this is the end of it. Like, as I would love this to be the end of it. I would love this to the market now going into up only mode, but I'm kind of fearful that that's not the case. Okay, let's talk about the bridge contract stuff. So there's a couple of things going on. One, there was a post yesterday by Samus talking about the fee or not the fee. He says the contract ownership is the big question. He says, which I think the answer should be the DAO does not own it due to the risks and the lack of existing structure for it, and delay and potential loss of opportunity or complication that it could establish. He says the fee versus no fee question doesn't seem nearly as important to me since it's flexible to change anyway. And then he says it's hard to evaluate the root cause when you have multiple variables. He says I think it's even noisy even when you start comparing chains and fees instead of just one chain and different fees. Also, if enabling the fee has no measurable impact on the activity, no more distinguishable than noise, then it's a good indicator that maybe the fee is a good decision since it didn't impact activity in an observable way. So then Langers said, I agree with Sams's points and position on this. He said, we don't want to delay this further. So Val then had an update today saying, given Langer's rejecting even temporary team ownership and the desire to act expediently, I think we're down to a vote on fees. He said, I'm working with Spartan on the draft RPIP and hopefully we can have one up today. So I think then the next step is a sentiment poll. Once the RPIP is the draft RPIP is done, we have a sentiment poll. The sentiment poll will be, do you want this to go to vote? And then we'll say yes, and then it'll just go to a snapshot vote. So it looks like we should have an answer within the next 2 weeks or so about this. And it looks like that, there's a consensus building around having a fee that we charge, a small fee that can be changed later. And it looks like the admin of the contract will just be burned, and no one will have control of that. So it'll become immutable bridge, which is, well, some parts will be immutable, which is pretty cool. Okay, it's rewards night on Wednesday night tonight, and they come around, and we got a new RPL price that has been locked in, and this has been updated to 0.00236 RPL. I believe this is an all-time low for rewards night. If not, it'll be like definitely like the second lowest. It's one of the lows. So that's been locked in. So if you want to update up your collateral to get that RPL, the ETH boost, if you have an ETH only validator, if you if you started a Saturn Zero validator and then you want to get the full amount of the ETH boost, then you can update your RPL to be above that amount. There's something really interesting that I want to show you. Let me just get that. Yeah, here you can see the collateral distribution, and there is just under 10 million RPL that is effectively staked, and it's showing that basically above 10% collateral, there's 108 nodes that are between 10% and 15%, and 29 nodes that are between 15% and 20%, and 15 that are between 20 and 25, and then there's just one at 55, and then one at 70% collateral, and that's it. Like, out of all the thousands of nodes, being at 20% collateral puts you in the 99th percentile of collateral on your stake. So that is absolutely fascinating. It just shows you how many people are below that 10% collateral now. People just stopped updating their RPL amount, and yeah, that's a very, very interesting chart. I thought I'd share with you all. And we're going to finish today's episode with the treasury report coming out of the pDAO, and this is from Vaca, and he says, if you need intro on how the pDAO treasury works, check this post. It says, this period the pDAO reserve received 6,665.7 RPL from inflation. Its balance is now 79,729 RPL. The IMC and GMC were paid 11,297 and 4,632 RPL respectively. What's really interesting though is that amount of RPL that the treasury has is about $300,000. So we are running really, really low on funds. That's not fun. But yeah, thank you, Vaca, for putting this report out. It's really nice to have a look at that and just see how the pDAO and the whole community is doing in terms of our treasury. So on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope you all have a lovely day ahead. I really hope this green is here to stay. I do have some worries that it might not be, but we'll see what happens in the days and weeks to come. With Trump, one thing is certain, that there will be a whole lot of uncertainty coming. So yeah, I hope you can all stay well, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.